Here. Ms. Nyworth.
Here.
Ms. Edwards.
Here.
Dr. Bridges.
Here.
Mr. Jesper.
Here. Recognitions?
We do not have special guests in recognition, but we have extra information in our superintendent's announcement. So
That'll make up for it. All
we'll
right.
make up for it, yes.
Item number 5 is the architect and construction manager risk update.
And we put you all at the front like we promised.
Well, thank you very much. Matt Graves with Architects in Partnership. I'm here to give a report on the projects we currently have ongoing throughout the district. Lawton High windows, the project is nearing completion, it's about 90%. Expected to punch the project out over spring break, so you'll be getting an invitation to that. The re-roof at Adams, also one of the projects hampered by weather recently, but it seems to be going well, and it's 90% complete also. The mechanical projects at Woodland Hills, Lincoln, and Adams, all are complete, but Lincoln, well, actually, Lincoln is substantially complete, looking for closeout documents on those now. MacArthur High Cafeteria, the closeout documents have been received, some punch list items still remaining. Those are expected to complete soon. We're beginning some new projects, a replacement of the refrigeration unit at the food service warehouse. Geotechnical borings were taken recently. We're waiting on the final report, and from there we'll issue a schedule for the completion of the project. The engineer's inspection at MacArthur on the fire alarm was delayed recently because of the weather, so once we complete that, we'll issue a schedule for that project as well. And then the gym repairs at Almore West. We've provided a proposal, and our CJ Construction is providing cost information for that emergency repair. So any questions on any of those?
Let me go ahead and inform them about the gym repair at Elmore West. I'm not sure the board is aware. They had an issue where, Stephanie, the principal at Elmore West, said it was a blessing. A piece of concrete fell out of the ceiling on a weekend, knocked out a ceiling tile, and they discovered a structural deficiency, which they have stabilized and worked on. And that's also been a blessing because it also will be applying to several of our open air buildings, or open concept buildings. Cubish, Crosby Park, I think probably Carriage Hills will all be impacted, but they found a structural deficiency that they're able to fix. It's not a danger to our students, but that's something that they're working on for us as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we hadn't gotten that far.
Oh, okay. We have updates on Eisenhower Middle School and the safe rooms. I'll turn it over to Crossing on those.
Thank you.
You'll have to forgive me, my voice is gone. I'm Jeff Williams with the project manager over the safe rooms. Just to give you a little update on where we're at. We are pushing right now to get Edison complete by March 16th. That's the first one. Almore West is set to be about a week behind it. Basically, all of these are trying to finish out about a week after one another. So at Edison, we're roughly at 72% complete. We got the drywall almost complete. The exterior paint will start tomorrow. Interior paint will start next week, and then some of the site concrete will start next week. Almore West, the drywall is going up. As soon as it's going up, they're following right behind and finishing the drywall. The site concrete will also start next week. Woodland Hills, framing and the rough end is 95% complete. We should have final inspections on the rough end and framings tomorrow. Drywall will start next week. The roof is on, and the site concrete will also start next week. Hugh Bish, the interior framing and rough end has begun. The roofing is going on now. It's almost complete. Crosby Park, the interior rough end has begun, and the roofing is going to start next week. Sullivan Village, the floor slab is complete. We're waiting on that to cure out, and we'll start on framing and rough end in there. And then Carriage Hills, the floor slab is going to be placed tomorrow, and the site utilities just finished up this week. So we're looking at overall trying to complete this by April 20th with some of the weather delays we've had. We're working on getting a compilation of all the delays that we've had and get it submitted to you guys for an approval, for an extension. So, any questions?
What about Whittier? Where are we looking to see
Whittier.
what we're going to do? I know that we had talked about now that we're getting to substantial completion on the other five.
Kind of, on Whittier, we're looking at a 3-classroom concept there. So we need to get some survey information to properly site the building. So,
The money for Whittier has been set aside from the beginning, so
Well,
that,
yeah, but we just didn't know what we were gonna do. And I mean, we had to wait till we were substantially complete on the other five before we decided what action we were gonna do.
Good evening. So I'll kind of run in first, starting with our update of where we're at right now with Eisenhower, and then I'll go into our GMP number 4 that we had. So getting into the update, our main gym, all the walls have started, all the masonry. We're looking to be topped out completely with the main gym next Friday. They started the second gym on Monday, and all the sewer we're looking to have complete next week. We're looking at Area C. We are starting to get into all the slabs for Area C, so I'll get into all the classroom areas. We started steel today, so we had our joists and decking start showing up on Monday and Tuesday, and we started placing some steel in the gym today. All of our piers are 100% complete on that, and our grade beams we're in Area B now. So we're making a lot of progress, and I'm sure if you guys drive up and down the road, you can start seeing those walls getting put up. So it's pretty exciting watching this go on. All right, getting into GMP number 4 that we had. Oh, yes.
that's on a separate agenda
Oh,
item.
okay.
So if the board wants to move ahead and do that, or, it won't be a
Sure.
long wait either way, so I'll just leave it up to the board president.
Go
Let's go ahead.
Let's go ahead and
Okay.
skip to, what's the item that we're going to
Item
skip to?
7A under the superintendent's report.
Okay, item 7A on superintendent's report. We'll go ahead with that.
Now it's yours again.
All right, perfect. Okay, GMP 4, just kind of how I've given summaries before. I'll go over the overall summary, just on total numbers, and then I'll break it out into the separate bid tabs for each contractor. So overall, we bid building demolition of the existing building, site concrete, EFS, asphalt paving and landscape. So currently, if you could see for GMP 4 compared to our original budget, that's including the asbestos that we were planning on doing. That number came out to $749,937. The site concrete, this one was over. Concrete prices went up. Some design changes happened. So we're at $764,000. EFS, we're at $399,500. Asphalt paving, we're at $342,475. And landscape, we're at $63,259, which puts us at a total for this GMP of $2,493,900. And then if we look at the budgeted, where you see total GMP, our original budget we were looking at with all 4 GMPs was around $36,826,975. So our actual costs are $37,973,519, which puts us about 3% above what we were originally expecting. Now going into the actual bid sheets itself. So for trade contract 2 Alpha, building demolition, we're recommending K&M Wrecking at $749,937. For site concrete, 3 Alpha, we're looking at Crossland Construction at $764,000. For 7 Alpha EFS, we're looking at Delhi Enterprises at $399,500. $32 Alpha Asphalt Paving, we're looking at J&L Paving, $342,475. For 32 Bravo landscaping, we're recommending Grooms at $63,259. Those are our current recommendations. Do you have any questions of me on the overall summary or anything at all?
I think, no,
No? Okay. That is all that I have.
we approve.
Second. Just vote on it.
Where is it? Okay, item 7A is the GMP. Let's make sure, so Kathy has a question, making sure I moved you to the right item.
Oh. That's bonds.
I thought it was.
It's GMP 4. It's actually the GMP, the bonds are the next one.
Right. I thought
So we
it
have,
was there.
We have two for the bonds, 7A and 7B are both bond related.
okay.
Still, you're right.
So,
To vote till they talk about the bonds.
Is that what we need to do?
We can just make it a 7C.
Mr. Wade,
What did we do?
help us.
Do we need to wait till
Both
they
items are on the same 7A.
Oh, we can go ahead and.
let them talk too?
We can go ahead and consider them, even though they're out of order, that's no problem.
Well, we
Need
could,
a separate item number.
we could go ahead and do 7A and 7B now.
Well, let them, yeah, let's do
Mm, That's fine.
Let's do A and B now.
Okay,
We could make it
Makes more sense.
781,
And not the GMP.
72.
so we have combined the GMP and the bids, the bonds into one.
Yeah.
So. Are you okay with that, Chuck?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
We're gonna go ahead and then listen to, do the bonds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. If we need to do anything to straighten, you know, when we do the minutes, if we need to.
So I'm Chris Garner with the Bank of Oklahoma, and you have Nate Ellis with the Public Finance Law Group. So we were here a month ago, and at that time, we set the date, time, and place to take bids for the bonds. So we received those bids today at 1 o'clock. What you have in front of you is a summary of those bids. We're really happy. We received 7 bids. I mean, you can see, a lot of interest on the national level, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of New York. So you go to the far right, what you're most interested in is the interest rate. So we have them ranked from 1 through 7. The low rate is what you're looking for. So the 1.958071 from Robert W. Baird is who we're recommending you award this bid to. It's interesting in the sense like all 7 bids are within 10 basis points of each other. The best bid was 1.95%. The worst bid was 2.05%. And if you look between the number 1 and number 2, in the life of 5 years, actually it's about 7 years, 5 maturities for $14,380,000, the difference in your interest cost is less than $1,000 between the number 1 and number 2. So very good bids, very tight, which is what we like to see. So with that, we're recommending you award the bonds to Robert W. Baird. And that's what would be in that motion. And I'll go ahead and touch on the second one. You'll actually authorize the issuance of the bonds. So it's a 2-step process. So.
Okay. So you're okay, Mr. Wade? Okay.
For approval for 7A, and it includes both items?
No, we gotta do it though. Oh, yeah, that item and that one, I
Right.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Total 3.
2 and 7A and 1 and 7B, right?
Okay. 2 motions in one.
I don't know.
So we already made a motion.
So I made a motion to accept,
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry.
well, that's okay.
That's because you were going, stop, you're doing it wrong.
I made a motion
Thank God for Kathy.
to accept GMP number 4. Hey, I understand.
You have a motion and a second?
Yes.
for GMP number 4.
Right.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Nyworth,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges.
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Now we need a motion on the bank.
And me,
Ms.
Carla.
Caulfield.
Yes, yes. So now we need a motion on the bonds.
Yeah, now we need to make a motion that we accept the Robert Beard.
I'll second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Nyworth,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards.
Yes.
Dr. Bridges.
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Ms. Caulfield.
Yes.
Now we need the resolution, correct? I move that we approve the resolution in 7D.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges.
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Ms. Caulfield.
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, you mean y'all don't want to stay? I'm getting alerts from my friends.
Okay, so, Dr. Deegan will continue the superintendent's report.
To see if anybody had,
There wasn't anything left, I don't think.
It's just the regular.
Oh,
Just the
yes, I'm sorry. Departmental reports, 6A.
anybody had any questions?
No questions? Okay. We'll move on then, back to superintendent's report.
Okay, we did set them 7A and 7B. Now we're on 7C. This is an information item. Last semester, we did a presentation to the board about customer service options, and the sites were given several options, and the departments, and they were asked to adopt a model for their site or their department. And so before you, at your desk, you have a copy of the final results of that. Looks like this. And it's a simple report. Every department and every school, except one, and we have a gap there, and we're aware of it, has adopted, most of them adopted the similar to the contact the superintendent button, and which is contact the principal. And just to give you an idea, the contact the superintendent button has been up since September 3rd, at least. I believe that's when it was launched. We have had 133 contacts where people have contacted me directly. That's less than one per day. And so at first there was a big, you probably take about 50 of them out for the first week or two. Once you got it established, it has been very manageable. I may get 2 or 3 a week. Some weeks, if there's a spicy issue, I'll get 5 or 6. But that's been a very good model. And so many of the principals adopted that. I want to, again, point to some innovative ones, which are information systems and technology. Information system is doing a survey on their email signatures, so anytime somebody can click on that and do a survey. And then, of course, technology, they've been doing a survey, which is probably the most complex of all of our surveys, and they get to rate the actual technician. But most of our principals opted for the contact the principal button. And, you know, if it can be manageable for me and at a district level with 50,000 potential questions a day from 50,000 different people, I'm really proud of our principals and our directors for implementing these. They met the deadline. Like I said, we've had one snafu, and we'll figure out where that is and get it addressed. But that's what happened. That's what we, any questions from the board? I think they've done a great job of putting these systems in place.
What are customer service cards?
Right, that was my question.
That was one of the models that was presented, where they have cards on their desks in their offices, and when people go, they can deposit them in a receptacle, kind of like a feedback card.
What about MacArthur High School? How come there's nothing there?
That's the one we're gonna, that's the snafu. Can't be 100%, so But again, I'm proud of my staff and I'm proud of our sites for opening these lines of communication. They're very, and what people have learned is, what I've learned is with 133 contracts, I kind of afraid there'd be 2,033 contracts, but it weren't. Most of my contacts, they just want information. I connect them to the right person in this room or the right principal. There are occasions when I get comments that I can't respond to because they're, but every one of them is documented and tracked. So I'm just really pleased with what our staff has done across the board. Any other questions on that issue, the board?
I like this. Together and well thought out.
Lynn Cordes' staff and Victoria Ondorf, give them the credit. All right.
Okay, item 7C1.
Item 71 is consideration of possible action regarding a contract with Barlow Educational Management for comprehensive district-wide climate survey and needs assessment. I really didn't read this item 7C, so I apologize.
Yeah, this is a kind of an initiative of the board, and it falls under a customer service big rock. You know, this is a way for the board to service our customers, which is everyone in the district, and employees, students, administrators, teachers, of course, and the general public. And one of the ways we felt like we needed to do that is we needed to make sure that we understood what the climate in Lawton Public Schools is like, and whether or not there's anything that we need to do differently or expand on things that are going well. And we felt like the only way to really do that was to bring in an outside entity. And so Patty Nyworth and I met with Barlow Education Management Services first, and then a couple of weeks later, we had a second meeting that was attended by Dr. Lori Bridges, Dr. Deegan, myself, Lewis Barlow, as well as Cindy Heupel. And just so we can have a discussion about this, since this is the first time it's been presented, it can be an action item, but we can also just discuss it and defer it to another meeting, and that's at the pleasure of the board. I just wanted to read the basic proposal from Barlow Education Management Services, District Climate Assessment and Action Proposal. The project goals are to elicit the opinions of district stakeholders regarding the educational climate of the district. The second goal is to develop recommendations to the Board of Education and the superintendent to aid in school improvement. And the project format is interviewing of district stakeholders, including members of the Board of Education, superintendent, central office staff, teachers, students, parents, and community members for the purposes of information gathering and assessment of needs. Conducting one-on-one interviews on site with various stakeholders, arranging and conduct focus group meetings with various stakeholders, speaking at meetings and other opportunities for the purpose of gathering and disseminating information. There will be one particular person assigned, that will be Cynthia Heupel, in conjunction with other Barlow staff associates. The information about the fee and actual contract are posted, very reasonable fee. I'd like to give the opportunity right now for the board to make any comments or any discussions concerning this action.
Well, I was very impressed with Barlow when we met with them, and I think this will really bring a good outside view of what we're doing and what we're got going on, and I'm ready to vote tonight. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. Absolutely.
Yes. And Lori, thank you for stepping in for me. I had a conflict.
I loved it. It
You
was,
did.
it was really interesting.
You like
Yes,
Cynthia, didn't you?
yes.
Yeah, I think she'll be good, so I'm
Very personable.
ready
and
to make a motion that we approve it.
experience.
Okay, I'll second.
Can we talk just a little bit more?
Oh, go
about-
ahead. I thought you
just-
said yes.
No, I'm ready to vote too. I just
Go
wanted,
ahead.
I just had a
Discussion's
couple of
good.
questions because I wasn't in any of the meetings, and I know some of the points that we were hoping to address with all this. Just for clarification, Stakeholders, I know you went through the list there, but when we talk about stakeholders, it will be interviewed. It's everybody. It's teachers, it's staff, it's Shoemaker staff, it's parents, it's Board of Education. They're gonna hear widely from everyone. And that is, okay, with that in mind, it's an anonymous process, correct? Where people will be interviewed and then their feedback will be aggregated together and provided in a report that comes to the Board of Education and the district.
She doesn't
exactly
collect
right.
names at all.
She doesn't do names.
She doesn't collect any kind of names.
Do they use a combination of in-person and phone interviews and written surveys and such, or how do they get the data?
Well, initially, this first 4-month phase,
Yep,
it's pretty much one-on-one,
okay,
one-on-one or small groups.
okay,
She thinks it's very important to do it that way, so she can assure people that, everything's totally anonymous, she'll never break a trust, and her whole mission is to gather the information.
yeah,
And so that's how they're gonna do it. Now, afterwards, there may be some suggestion for some type of a survey to be
Okay.
done as well.
Okay.
But whatever suggestions that come about will be as a result of the information that she's able to gather.
and you said 4 months, that was gonna be one of my other questions. How long do they expect the process of coming in and interviewing people and gathering that data? 4 months?
Yes, the contract's for a 4-month period. Plan to be through with it at that point and able to give us the reports and recommendations.
Okay, that's great, and, I think that's really all of my questions. I'm excited about this initiative. I think it's important to hear from people and find out, how they're doing and how people are feeling on the sites, and, I think it'll be great. So I'm glad for the work you guys have done on that, so thank you.
That did lead me to a question.
Yeah,
If we
sure.
approve tonight, when will they start? Would be-
March 1st.
Okay.
Get it going.
Okay. Now we can vote?
So did you already move for approval?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did. I moved and she seconded. Patty moved, Carter seconded.
Call roll, please.
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Very excited.
And as a supplement, if, Mr. Board President, I've laid at everybody's, this is a copy of an annual survey that sites participate in. It's part of the state of Oklahoma. It's 9 essential elements. It provides some information. Dr. Polk's staff does this. Matter of fact, this is the survey that drives all instruction. And you'll see 950-some teachers have participated in it last year. Just wanted you to have a copy of it. If you look on the first page, it gives you some idea of what is surveyed. Element number 4 is for school climate, and if you go to page 11 out of 16, you can kind of see what those look like. A quick way to disaggregate it is what the percentage, either a positive or negative is, and so I think this will be a helpful addition to these surveys that the site does. But I wanted the board to have a copy because we realized we'd really never given you a copy of this. It drives everything that the sites do. It drives everything that the schools do and everything that the district does instructionally. So it's just another component. We just thought we had never given you a copy. I thought I'd just make sure you had a copy, and I appreciate Dr. Polk's staff and Ms. Cordes' staff getting that ready for us.
When we, can I ask a question about it? When we
Sure.
send these surveys, I can see it's through SurveyMonkey, which I'm familiar with. Are we using their LPS email address as the verifier that they're with LPS? Is that how they
Dr.
do
Polk?
that? Okay.
And Dr. Polk, that is sent through the State Department, right?
State Department is the one that sends that?
Yeah, they compile it and give us the data back. So, all right. If we're
Ready for item 7E.
Nope, 7D,
7B.
7D.
D, I'm sorry.
This is an update, and I don't know, it's a possible action item. It's up to between Mr. Wade will probably need to advise us. At the last board meeting, the board voted to after discussion about UVA, cohort 16, the board voted to to try a 5-month trial period. The University of Virginia is not going to offer a contract to that, and so therefore, no contract will be presented with a 5-month option. I just don't know if the board, so there is no cohort 16. Don't know, and that's up to you, Mr. Wade. Do we need to do any action on that? I just wanted to update the board first on the contract. There is no contract. We're not going to be a part of a cohort 16.
If we're not gonna be part of it, there's no reason for any action to be taken.
Because the contract that was presented was for 3, and we talked about 5, and so there really is nothing to act on. Okay.
So last time we voted to approve a 5-month version, we don't need to rescind that and officially say we're not gonna do that?
They didn't accept the 5-month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
they
there's
didn't
no
accept it.
contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
We never had a 5-month version before the board,
Right.
so. And with the board's permission, because the school report cards are not public yet, we, if the board will, next month, the big rock is academics, and so that UVA information academics, to be most accurate, we'll be able to report with the school report card information. So if the board will give us one more board meeting, it will be more pertinent. Otherwise, we'll do, what we do now would be, without that information, we'd have to report it twice.
Can we get the specific data as well that we've talked about getting
That's what
with
I'm
regard, okay.
Talking
gotcha.
about, we could do that twice, but with the school report card data being released on the 28th,
Yeah,
at the next board meeting, we would just wind up doing it twice in a row.
Yeah.
And so again, I
That
asked my
makes more
staff to
sense.
wait. I told them, wait till we get the report cards released. That'll give us some more perspective.
yeah, that works for me,
So
for sure.
if you'll, with your permission,
Sure.
So my apologies about that. If those report cards would have been released earlier, we'd have been ready tonight.
How come they weren't released, are they having?
Oh, you want to talk report cards? I don't know if I don't.
What have they done this
I
time?
don't know if it's on the agenda. Nobody's watching, are we? No, the state report cards, believe it or not, we've had communication, and please, Miss Jackson, Emily Anderson, your team down there, they have been amazing. We've communicated with Joy Hoffmeister. We had a meeting yesterday. We communicated with Joy Hoffmeister yesterday about some of the report card issues. The State Department's been really good. They did some changes to the report card because of the United States Department of Education. It caused some delays. Ultimately, we had a 10-day window. The 28th will be the end of the window. Everybody's been able to preview for their district. Our staff has been working with them to make sure the calculations were correct. Our staff did an incredible job of updating our cohort graduation rate, and they actually, because of Lawton Public Schools staff, opened up the entire state report card. I just want you to get the impression of the expertise of our staff that's been working on this. I'm astounded. Dr. Polk could, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. But they'll be public next Friday, and we will be able to report on them in the next board meeting, which is really appropriate because that's the academic big rock. So,
Great job.
but there's no perfect way. We do believe in one thing I do, it's been helpful for the staff, is they can actually click down to the kid now. Before, the principals said, wow, I can actually click down to the child in a classroom from this report. It's really been phenomenal. Now, the public won't see that, of course, but it's been a very good tool. So I've got to give, it's been a long process, but at least we're here.
Great work.
Good deal.
7E.
Under item 7E, we have two, it's really one item, but there are two things. Closed facilities update and feedback from the board on surplusing options. With Sodexo transitioning most of last semester, Jeremy, Tanner, and I have really just started to have standing meetings this semester, January, so we've been having those for several weeks. One thing we've talked about, Don McKegg's been joining us, Miss Ellis, we've been talking about the need to surplus our buildings, some of those buildings. One of the things that I think the board needs to be aware of is the only building we actually moved out of because it was structurally deficient was Wilson. Wilson needs to be demolished. Wilson is not a building that we should, it was not a safe building. But that's something that we would come with a formal recommendation to the board. I just want to give you an idea of what we've talked about. The other buildings that we need to surplus, we've surplused them in different ways. I'd like to hear feedback from the board. I think at this point, I think the districts should surplus them, and honestly, we put a recommended bid, but we take the highest bidder. We've not taken the highest bidder before because it didn't meet a certain threshold, but I think at this point, the community, if we have people in the community who can use the buildings, that I would like to sell them. Absolutely. And so that's what I wanted to hear from the board. And with that, now we're finally ready to get with Mr. Wade, Mr. Tanner, and really start surplusing those buildings. It might be a closed bid system like you've done in the past. We might just get an auctioneer. We'll just kind of, the fastest, quickest way.
Oh, somebody interested in Taft? I thought I read that.
Yes, that's the next item. So let me, item A, make sure I might get my takeaways. Does the board have any advice on that or comment on
You're gonna keep Brockland, correct?
planning at this moment to keep Rockland and Park Lane? Because if we have growth, that's where the areas will be in growth, predictably. But that, at some point, that may be a consideration is also just to sell those as well.
It wasn't structurally unsound. Do we need to go ahead and move forward to see what it's gonna cost us to get that demoed?
Talk to Mr. Tanner and Mr. McKeag about getting some bids on those. Now, we go Freedom, or when we tore down Sheridan Road, it was about $100,000. I'm sure it's 3 or 4 times the size of Wilson, so we're not anticipating this to be a great expense. We just don't need the building there anymore. It's a beautiful piece of land, just a terrible building. The back end of the building, the south end, is just sinking. And it is sinking, and even when we had kids in there, it was sinking in ways, and if you go in the basement, it's just a mess.
Well, the theater went and looked at it
Yeah.
when we moved out, and
Yeah.
they said they're in any way, and they're in a Quonset hut, so.
Uh-huh.
But
It
if-
wasn't, yeah. But
Well, I would like to make the comment that it would be beneficial to the community at large if we were able to sell these to tax-paying entities. Sure would be nice to get some ad valorem tax.
Yes, it would be. But, before we do anything, of course, I just wanted feedback. Before we do anything, there'll be a full proposal to the board, so the board will know exactly. I just wanted some guidance. Right now, we'll come up with a plan that we think is the most advantageous.
What are we doing with, I know Park Lane and Brockland we're keeping, what are we doing to make sure that everything stays functioning in those buildings? You know, an empty building has a tendency to deteriorate very quickly.
They visit the buildings once a week minimum, and then when we get calls of anything else like that. And so that's something I checked with Mr. Tanner and Mr. McKeag recently.
Okay, make sure there's no roof leaks and
Yeah.
everything.
are we leasing the gym at Brockland?
There has been a request recently, that's one more thing I was going to ask. We've had a request for a commercial entity is asked to lease just the gym at Brockland, and I wanted to get feedback from the board. Right now, we lease one of our buildings to a nonprofit that actually serves Head Start. This would be a commercial business that would like to just lease the gym.
That's a private school.
Yeah,
It's a private school.
well, I asked him if he was a commercial business, and he said he was a commercial business.
Well, he's in it to make money.
Yeah. But it's just the gym they want. I haven't considered at this point selling to a building to a private entity, but I haven't even considered if we start, I always think once we open the door to one thing, we'll open up to everything.
Well, and I'm thinking liability. What is our liability
Well,
on
they'd have
things
to
like
have
that?
insurance. There
Well,
wouldn't be
I
any
know,
doubt.
but
They have
wouldn't we
insurance.
have to still too? I mean, I always.
We
I'm
will
like-
always, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have
to
to
be-
cover. Anyway, we're looking at that. I mean,
might offset some of the maintenance,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know.
I'll tell them we're not against it, and we need give them a proposal. I'll ask them to give us a
ask them
proposal.
to give us a-
And I can't remember the name of the entity, so.
I know it if they want to ask me.
Last one, if the board had any question on item A, would be Comanche Nation would like Taft Elementary School. Give the board some feedback, some background. The state of Oklahoma recently changed its rules about charter schools. Sovereign nations, Comanche Nation being one of them, has the right to form a charter school at any time. They don't need, and traditional charter schools require a school to sponsor it. This charter school would be, again, Comanche Nation has a need of a building. we are meeting the needs of our Native American students exceptionally well academically. This is a cultural need that the tribe, that the Comanche Nation is wishing to pursue to meet its cultural needs as a tribe. Dr. Pee Wee Wardy has invited me to come to the Comanche Nation business meeting on March 2nd to talk to them. He is also going to come to another board meeting, but I wanted to let the board know that the Comanche Nation is interested. And considering historically, I think Lawton High is on KCA land. And because this is a building that's not being used, I would like the board to be open to leasing it to the Comanche Nation, similar to as we do Crosslands Youth and Family Services, or even at some point giving it to the Comanche Nation. They're great partners of ours, and I'd like to be able to do something for them.
It's a great building. I mean, there's
It is.
nothing wrong with this building, and it sits on a nice big lot. I mean, there's a lot of, I think that's probably something we should.
They toured the building and love it, and so
I
I'll-
mean,
It gets us out from under the maintenance.
Well, yeah, and it's set up just beautifully. I was pretty fond of that.
so that's just kind of the update. I wanted to get feedback on those ideas, and I think I have.
Purchase the store across the street and go and open it again.
Any more questions on that? I'll move on to superintendent's announcements. All right, I have a few superintendent announcements. One is our partners have left, but BOK, Crosslands, and AIP, we've submitted a joint proposal to COSA and OSSBA to do presentations. And board members, I've written a spot on there for board members. I think it's time for Lawton to tell its story to other board members and other superintendents of how things have happened here, because people in the state have really noticed that. So that has been submitted to COSA. We expect OSSBA. I just want it on the board's radar so you can start thinking about which one of you would like to, once they're, I'm pretty confident they'll be accepted, which board member would like to. We could have as many as two.
It's a panel discussion.
Panel discussion in both cases. OSSBA would be to board members. 2-hour breakout is what we're planning. Again, they haven't accepted us. COSA would be a 1-hour panel, so it would be kind of a practice run. That would be mainly to school administrators, but
COSA's in June and OSSBA's in August.
COSA, I believe, is June 4th. OSSBA is at the end of August, the 1st of September. But those proposals were submitted about, I think I've been working with them since summer about putting this together. They were submitted a couple weeks ago. We won't know. OSSBA has not been submitted, however. But I just want board members to be aware of it so board members can decide who you want on the panel, or if you want to be on the panel. Second thing, if nobody has any question over that, we have a legislative breakfast, our first of the season, tomorrow morning, 8:15, Shoemaker Auditorium. Right here, we already have about 43 people that have confirmed, and Patty's come to several of them. I know we've had other board members possibly come, but if you can be here at 8:15, Sodexo feeds us. We have a lot of new legislators this year, and so we're going to take a very different approach to how we do the legislature. We're going to be very specific about bills and questions about actual legislation this year. But we've always had a good legislative cohort, and so I'm excited about that. But I think we'll have one of the bigger, because they are new, we're going to have one of the bigger crowds we've had in a long time.
On that same note, in March, the chamber goes to DC for their annual lobbying trip, and I'm gonna go, and they've set up so far 3 meetings for me, one-on-one with Cole and some of them. So any issues that you see federally, I need some meat to take to them, and I always take a packet for each one. So you guys email me, my Lawton Public, so that I'll be sure that we talk about what really is affecting us here. I mean, we'll have some generic things, but I want to talk about Lawton and what we're doing.
When are you going?
Going the last week of March.
Okay.
So anything you've got, just send it to me. If you've got a handout, that's even better.
I think
Or
Dr.
I'll
Polk can get
create
you one
one.
together. She'll get you one together. 2 things the 3 things that are related to the bond, sort of, and I realize that just haven't had time to update the board on some of these things. We have a committee. We got all the band and orchestra directors together under Miss Nyworth's prodding, and Mr. Dees has been taking on a lot of these projects, but they have finally, I think we were one band director away from the spreadsheet, from being able to give them, be able to know what appropriate amount. Because the bond, I talked to Mr. Wade, the bond allowed for buying of items, but the bond did not necessarily, it was such a stretch for repairs, we've decided to handle that in a different way. They need new instruments, but they have a mountain of instruments that just need repaired, and they've not been able to
Makes no
repair.
sense to buy a $10,000 cello when you could repair 5 for that amount.
Yeah.
And they're lined up in the band rooms and the orchestra rooms.
It's a
Just
tremendous
sitting
amount of
there.
money. It'll take us 2 or 3 years to catch up is what I anticipate. But I think that's a good process
Money to repair.
to have that in place for them.
Well, and that's something I'd like to talk to our legislators. I think that needs to be changed, because they said when I called OSSBA about it, because Tom told me, and I'm like, what? They said it's not considered an asset, an instrument to be repaired, and I went, you've got to be kidding. You know, you've got them for 20 years, it's a definite asset, and the cost of them is not cheap either. So I think we need to drill down and find out how we get that changed, because bond money should be able to be spent on repairing instruments.
Yeah. And that may be a constitutional issue. I don't know.
I don't
Mr.
know.
Wade probably knows.
And we'll find out, we need to ask somebody to.
But that's a big deal. Also, the auditorium, we've had an auditorium committee with all 7 middle schools and high schools, and they have focused on sound. That process is working. That's a bond issue. And I believe track bids are out right now for this, or they're going to be out soon to resurface all 3 high school tracks this summer. We would have done them earlier. Mr. Dees did all he could to get them done, but the winter, you can't do it during the winter. Go figure. So it was just one of those things. That's going to be a pretty neat thing. And
Is it just resurfacing the tracks, or is there more going into the tracks? My kids both run track, and I'm aware of the deficiencies that we
Yeah.
have in equipment and pits for them to fall into,
Yeah.
and so and turtles, you know.
the problem, yeah, they, my experience, I've done one before, they completely take, but sometimes they run into deeper repairs.
Gotcha.
That's the unknown.
Okay.
You know, one thing, they'll have school decorations, school colors, those sorts of things.
Total.
That's awesome.
So that, I'm sure that, it can't be worse than what we've got right now. So, it's pretty amazing. Another thing, and this is, for our new board member, Ms. Bradley, you taught at Lincoln. Did you have to speak over an air conditioner for several of those years? In this board agenda, substantial completion, Lincoln's air conditioning is finally in. So they were so happy when I went the other day. They're not talking over air
They
conditioners.
even had it on their sign.
They were very, and that one took 14 years coming, but this board made it happen, so.
Planning
Along this
to
line,
get that
before we
building
get off
done.
of it, what about the lot at where the buses are? Have we done anything with that? We've talked about it
Yeah,
several times.
Mr. Tanner and I have met about that. We're thinking of a longer term, but we know where there's a bigger issue structurally underneath
There is a
it.
bigger issue, but
Yes.
right now, we're tearing our buses up with what's
Yes.
going on. Even if we've got a stopgap, I believe that we should at least
We're looking
do
at a
that.
longer-term plan, and I think, but again, we've met on it 2 or 3 times. We're working toward that. It's going to be a little more complicated than originally thought. So good question. Next thing, and I'll go through the rest of these pretty quickly. I just have 2 more. I want to read a note from Rosemary Bourgeon. She's a member of the community that occasionally writes. She's got the best handwriting in the history of the world. This was about the Peter and the Wolf performance. She saw all of our teachers there. She saw our principals there. She saw our kids there. She saw our buses there. And again, I'll pass this down, and of course, this is Patty Nyworth's event. She said, "Good job. I spent most of the morning at McMahon Auditorium and watched the choreography, not of the show. Remember, professional performers, but what caught her eye was the choreography of the bus drivers, teachers, managing all those kids during Peter and the Wolf." She called it herding cats, and she said she got it, and she said the kids were pretty good too, so.
Real good. There was 1,200 kids at a time, and they were just perfect. I was so proud.
And then last but not least, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock at Tomlinson Middle School, we're having our, I don't know if any of you have heard of N. Scott Momaday. He is the father of the Native American Renaissance, Pulitzer Prize-winning author. He will not be here. But we are having a study of his work on the day before his birthday next Friday. My goal this year is to make sure, or my long-term goal is to make sure everybody here knows N. Scott Momaday. He was born in Lawton. He is one of the most influential authors in the past century, and been working with tribe members and Pam Fodder has been the person who's made this happen with the Indian Education Department. She has put this together. She has been working with tribe members, so I hope anybody that can come next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, Tomlinson, to just hear a panel discussion and be introduced to Dr. Momaday's works. I've written an article about it this weekend. He's a national treasure, and he came from Lawton. We should be naming boulevards after Dr. Momaday. And so I'm excited to see that happen. Pam Fodder's done all that work. But I had a lot of announcements, but if you have any questions for me, I'll move on. That concludes my report.
Okay. Item number 8 is the consent agenda. Do we have any items that need to be removed?
Move for the balance of the consent agenda, for all of the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'm at both, a second.
Call the roll,
Carla
please.
something.
Ms. Hogfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, item 9 is proposed executive session.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
Phone's getting hot in my pocket. I mean, really, it's getting hot. Why?
Ms. Hogfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Tom, real quick.
By the way, guys,
On, the Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Statement of executive session minutes. The Board of Education went into executive session at 5:52 PM. Members present included Kent Jester, President, Carla Clodfelter, Vice President, Patty Nyworth, Kelly Edwards, Dr. Lori Bridges. Others present included Tom Deegan, Superintendent, and Gary Dees, who entered at 6:20 PM. It's the district's athletic director. Items discussed included the employing, promoting, and receiving resignations of individuals certified and support salaried personnel as listed on the certified and support personnel reports. The selection of Eisenhower High School head football coach. During the executive session, the board discussed these items and no other items, and no action was taken. The board returned to open session at 6:25 PM. This constitutes the minutes of the executive session. And I have lost my place again. This thing has a mind of its own. It just jumps
I
up.
would like to have got into mine, but no luck.
Okay, Superintendent's Personnel Report.
Under item 13, I have item 13A, which is approval of certified, no, I'm under item 14, I'm sorry. Where am I?
Item 13.
You're right, 13's right.
13A is correct.
13H's
I'm
correct.
sorry, I clicked on the wrong board meeting.
As we said,
Would
it.
you like a paper copy? We'd have to have.
Yeah, we have one of these here. I've got one. 13A.
Okay, item 13A, approval of certified and support personnel reports.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
And under item 13B, our high school head football coach. And to make sure I get the name right, I left my piece of paper in there. I'd like to recommend Mr. Eric Gibson.
For approval.
Second.
Call the roll,
Thank
please.
you, Mr. Dees.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, I think we have some new business under item 14.
And we do have two items of new business. I believe you have a copy on your table. First, we will look at the sheet that looks like this. This is a little simpler issue. That's upside down. This is a contract for consultant services. This is a program that the gifted and talented have been planning for quite a while. For some reason or another, it didn't make it through the proper channels. We don't want to delay them. I could have emergency signed it, but since the contract, I prefer to have the board do it. Received it today, so I would recommend that we approve it.
I am familiar with this, and I would like to move for approval.
Second.
What is this? Wait a minute.
It's
I don't
for-
even know what it is
Oh,
yet.
it's
Life
gifted and talented.
It's a
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is, okay.
Harvester Groceries kind of thing.
And this does fall under new business?
Yes, new
I was
business.
so picky about new business.
Human Central.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead. Call for it.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it takes a little longer for new business, so I'm going to go without you, Kathy. All right, on the second item, this is brought to me by AIP. There are two issues in this change order. One is an issue of a change order that has to do with the water pipes coming in from the city of Lawton, and it requires us to move some of our construction. That is completely unavoidable. And so this would be a change order to change that. The economic impact of the two are $2,400 total for both items. The other item is there were drains that needed to be added in some of the restrooms in Eisenhower Middle School. And so there are actually two change orders in this, and I wanted to make sure that I got them listed to you. If you look on page 3, it can tell you the water line design changes. I've met with them extensively about the water line design changes, both with AIP, Crosslands, and Mr. Tanner. This is something that we just couldn't avoid. They changed the rules afterwards. The drains, however, that's a little different. It was an oversight. And so we do need drains and we do need a water line. So I would like to request that the board approve this under new business.
How does it fall under new business? Should we know?
I didn't receive it until yesterday after the agenda had been posted. And that's the reason it would fall under new business.
So the items are for $517.84 and $2,461.26.
I believe so, yes.
That's on the back page.
Then we have our contingency amount, we still have 900,000, or 860,000 of contingency. It's 51,000 for the water line, that's the biggest one, which is completely not, it was unavoidable, design change by the city. The 2,400 is for the drains up in the bathroom floors.
Why is there a design change? Why did the city decide we needed a design change and charge us $51,000?
My understanding, and of course, where are they when I need them? My understanding, the size of the line that was coming in, you know, they're doing all that construction of 52nd Street. It has to do with that. The length of the line and where it comes in, all those things changed after we designed the building. It was something they didn't realize that until after they had already done the designs and the 52nd Street and everything came in. Again, it was something not under our control.
Yeah, I do remember that we discussed that, but I thought that city was making concessions for us on it.
They've done a lot of, and I got to give the city some support here. They've done a lot of other things that would have cost us a far more than if they hadn't worked with us. So this is one of those things that I can't complain with the city having this change on us because they saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars by coordinating some of their construction on 52nd Street. I don't want to fault the city, it's just one of those things.
It's not chump change.
No, it's not, but we still have
Well, yeah, but we're $1
860,000 of our
million
contingency, yeah.
over budget, though, we gotta remember that, too.
But if it has to be done, I'll.
Yep, there's nothing we can do, it's gotta be done.
If we don't go ahead and do it.
I mean, we don't have no choice.
One of those-
Have a motion?
I mean,
Oh, you did?
They're ahead of you down here.
Okay.
second.
I did. It's already second.
Call roll, please.
Okay.
You thirded,
I
it's
mean-
fine.
Okay.
Dr. Bridges made it, Edwards second. Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay. Next regular board meeting date is Tuesday, March 12th, 5 PM here. Do we need to set any additional board meeting dates?
None that I know of.
Do we have any board announcements?
I'd like to invite everybody to come on down to City Hall at 7 o'clock. We're doing a history of jazz in Oklahoma. When? Tonight.
30 minutes.
City Hall?
City Hall,
Hmm,
on the stage.
great.
There will be live music.
Well, I make a motion to adjourn.
Me, I second, yeah,
Call roll, please.
Who made the second?
I did.
Gotta keep it real.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes. Now, when is the board meeting where we actually